Hello, YouTube. My name is Alan, and it's that time once again. Let's talk metal. Tonight, I'm going to be doing another dive into a band with a short discography. I don't know if you can call it a deep dive when they only make 3 albums. Maybe it's a shallow dive, although that sounds kind of insulting or shallow. I don't know what to call it. Anyway, I've done a few of these in recent months, and I've been focusing on new wave of British heavy metal bands up to this point. But it's time to branch out a little bit and cover a band from a different scene entirely. So this video is going to focus on Chicago's own Zoetrope. Zoetrope was in existence for close to 30 years, actually. They have their origins tracing back to 1976, and they were still around in the early mid 90s. During that time, however, they only made 3 EPs, a couple of demo recordings, and a single, so not a huge catalog. There's not enough here to do some kind of, again, 2 hour heavy metallurgy stream on ranking the albums or anything. But I've been listening to a decent amount of Zoetrope lately, kind of learning a little bit more about their catalog. I had not heard all of their releases until very recently. So yeah, I thought it would be a fun band to highlight, help folks learn and hear some clips, find out a little bit more about them. I think this is one of those names that a lot of people have heard, and they might know one release by the band, but may not be familiar with their others. So without further ado, let's get started with a very simple question of what's with that name, Zoetrope? It stands out, but seems kind of odd. It turns out it refers to something that, again, I think a lot of people have seen, but at least myself never knew the name of. Zoetrope is one of these old-fashioned devices for looking at moving pictures before true, movie projectors and stuff existed. It's one of these things, one of these cylinders, that would have pictures inside it, and you could kind of, spin it, look through the slots, and it would look like, a simple image. This one looks like it has horses in it, so as it would spin, you'd look through the slots, and it would look like, the horse was actually galloping around. So, this is, cutting edge 19th century technology when it comes to animation. But the idea was, you could take the paper strips out, and then you could put in another one that might show a person running or a bird flying, so that you didn't just have to look at the horse every time you spun it. The horse is cool, but after a few times, you probably wanted to see a different image. So, why name your band after one of these? Well, did a little more digging, and turns out the word zoetrope, is taken from two Greek language roots, and so the word sort of means a wheel of life. Well, a wheel that makes things look alive in cases of this device. And for the band, this name starts to make a little bit more sense when you think about their origins, which were, kind of more in the punk and hardcore scene. I mean, let's face it, starting a band in 1976, you weren't playing heavy metal, not in any modern sense. At best, you might have been trying to do some kind of Led Zeppelin or Deep Purple thing. Kind of feel like even by 76, even those bands, weren't necessarily the toast of the town. I don't know for sure. I've never heard any recordings of the band from the 70s, but I'm guessing that, yeah, they sort of came up through, more of an interest, in rock, but also perhaps, the burgeoning punk scene. And they didn't get a release out until 1980. I haven't seen anything listed for the band earlier than that, by, which time their sound is kind of, well, interesting. Their first release was a 7-inch. It's one I do not have, and to be honest, I had forgot it existed. I'd seen it, over the years, but it had slipped my mind. Here's the picture sleeve for it. The bottom image is the front of the sleeve, and the top image is the back. And, the classic lineup that most people are familiar with regarding Zoetrope was already intact at this point. This band had a relatively stable lineup for very long periods of time. A lot of folks, associate the band with the drummer and vocalist Barry Stern, who we'll talk about a little bit as this goes on. But yeah, we'll start out by playing just a short clip of each of these two songs. The song titles are The Right Way and Call 33. Now, again, I do not have this single, so these are going to be some YouTube clips. I'll play a little bit of one and then a little bit of the other, and we'll see what Zoetrope were up to in 1980. You know you care. Okay. Interesting. A little bit power pop, maybe? It could be some punk leanings in the background there. Not particularly heavy or hardcore or anything. So, yeah, I'm not going to say it's an awful song, but I don't think it's something that will catch the ear of a whole lot of viewers who are more familiar with Zoetrope's later sound. Let's see what the flip side sounds like. All right, so we're starting to, hear, yeah, something a bit heavier, more metallic there on the flip side of the single. So this seems very reminiscent of a lot of singles from this era, early 80s bands that were doing some heavy stuff. They sometimes waffled a little bit in terms of what their style was going to be. And it's not unusual to find these singles that have one side in one style and the flip side is a very different style. And it seems like, yeah, Zoetrope was still trying to find an identity for themselves, but they were already tinkering with some heavier ideas. So, kind of an interesting artifact from the band's early days. Not what you would necessarily expect based on things we would hear a few years down the road. So, next vinyl appearance for Zoetrope would come in 1983. This was my introduction to the band when they were featured on the Metal Massacre Volume 4 compilation from Metal Blade Records. Their track is kind of here, right in the middle of the affair. It's called Speed Zone. And we'll check this out and see how the band had updated their sound by 1983. All right, yeah, there's Zoetrope, the movie. Most folks are familiar with them. Speed Zone is a killer track on a killer compilation. This one does not feature a ton of huge name bands like some of the other Metal Massacre volumes. But for my money, track for track, this is the best volume in the series. All of these bands just absolutely rip on here. Zoetrope being no exception whatsoever. So yeah, and we can hear now, the band is, definitely on a more metallic path. You can hear though, there is, a bit, of a punk hardcore element, in the background. They've got a little bit of that, sort of, dirty, raucous Motorhead type vibe, which of course owes a lot, to that scene. A lot of, hardcore and punk bands, you could dig Motorhead, and Zoetrope's no exception here. Uh, Zoetrope's a little bit of a hard one to pin down in terms of their exact sound, and the same would be true when they got their first album out the following year. 1985 saw Combat Records release the band's debut LP, Amnesty. And for most folks, this is the Zoetrope they've heard most likely. If you've only heard one thing from Zoetrope, it's probably been this. Yeah, and once again, from the anarchy symbol, design in the cover to the, kind of, different graffiti-ish looking logo and title, the band is definitely giving you signals that they're not just a straightforward metal band, that, they have, some very different influences going on. Yeah, this is a CD reissue. There's a lot of bonus tracks on this one, including the Speed Zone we just heard from the compilation. I'm not going to play a clip from this one because I think most folks are pretty familiar with it. And Speed Zone is a pretty good indicator of what they are doing on here. This is around the time when, the band is, really promoting, their quote unquote street metal subgenre. People like to complain that bands these days always invent their own personalized micro genres. Bands were doing it 40 years ago too. Yeah, street metal. The idea was that it was combining, some hardcore sensibilities and beats with a more powered out, metallic edge to it. And yeah, by the way, of course, kind of a great classic picture of Barry there behind the drum kit. Uh, Barry was, as I think I mentioned before, the drummer and vocalist, something a little bit reminiscent of, a few other early 80s bands, things like the Rods, and in particular Exciter, who I think you can kind of classify Zoetrope kind of close to. Um, Zoetrope plays, that kind of similar, very energetic, upbeat, aggressive style. It's very fast. You could make a case for calling it speed metal, and I wouldn't fight you about it, but I think it's a step slower than a lot of speed metal from that era, such as Agent Steel or Holy Terror. Uh, they also, lean pretty aggressive. You could almost make a case for it being thrash metal, but it just doesn't feel quite right putting it in the thrash category. But yeah, again, I don't think anybody should be called out as a poser if they were to claim that there's a thrashy sound to this. And early Exciters, very much the same way. They just kind of sit in that nexus where they're using, sort of a, American power metal structure, speeding it up a lot, getting it a little aggro, thrashy, but in Zoetrope's case, having this, hardcore vibe in the background as well. It all works really nicely. Amnesty is just one of those albums that's very fun to listen to, and the tracks are pretty distinct. They work very well together. It's got, what to me is a very classic early and mid 80s American metal sound. It's exemplified by a lot of bands that shared slots on the Metal Massacre 4 compilation with them. It's, really pre-thrash. Thrash is happening by now, but it hasn't completely taken over the metal scene. And so you still have this sort of, quote unquote, true early 80s sound where bands are now definitely playing metal, and it's their own style. It's not just, a copy of the new wave of British heavy metal, and it's not just hard rock or anything like that. But yeah, they haven't, gone down the pathway of, pure extremism, wanting to, follow just thrash into death, into black, and, that chain of events. That would kind of wipe out this style as being particularly popular by the time you get just a couple of years down the road. But yeah, bottom line, Amnesty is a very fun listen, a great listen. Is it like a top tier album from the era? Probably not quite there, but I think it's, definitely a great one to check out if you happen to be unfamiliar with them. So what happens to Zoetrope after that? Well, you skip ahead a couple of years. There's a demo involved, and in '87 they release their second album. The second one I do not own. It's called A Life of Crime. Again, the same distinct logo, cover image, pretty eye-catching, with the different, criminal images all behind bars. And this one is playing into the fact that, yes, there's going to be, a few more lyrics, that are socially conscious. That, segment of their, punk and hardcore background is coming to the fore a little bit more. At the same time, the music is getting a little more aggro, leaning a little bit more thrashy. But so it's kind of like, both of their influences are pushed to the front simultaneously on this one. As such, it loses a little bit of that, kind of crash, bang, and wallop sound that they had in '84 and '85. And it's starting to sound, a little meaner and a little leaner. This probably shouldn't be come as any kind of surprise, because it is what a lot of bands in the scene were kind of transitioning to by the time you get to 1987. By that point, yeah, this kind of material is falling out of vogue, and it's very much, the thrash metal that is the big thing. Let's do a clip, check out a clip from Life of Crime. There's a lot of good songs on this one. This clip is going to come from Seeking Asylum, which I think is one of the stronger tracks on it. So here is Seeking Asylum from the second Zoetrope album, Life of Crime. Yeah, so you can hear there, there's a little tighter chug to it. Still very speedy. Barry's voice may be leaning, yeah, just a little harder there, but yeah, it's not a quantum leap for the band. They haven't reinvented themselves or anything. But yeah, they're just taking some of those elements and really leaning into them. And the album works quite well. I mean, the only reason I don't own a copy is that A, I haven't come across a copy in a very long time. And B, while I like it, it's not one of those things that I feel the need to like, immediately hop on Discogs and track down that I must have it right now. When I come across a copy on the right day, I will certainly pick it up. In terms of the lyrics, a few interesting things come up with some of the songs on A Life of Crime. The first song, Detention, is about, well, being in detention and, school's a drag and you just kind of want to escape and all that kind of stuff. So again, it's kind of playing into tropes you might associate, with both, metal songs and also, sort of, the punk vibe. Seeking Asylum, the one that we just heard a clip from, is, sort of about, someone being like an organized crime, getting what's coming to them, a little bit of that, punk, social justice mindset. Promiscuity is the song after that, which again kind of laying into people who think it's okay to go sleeping around and stuff. It's not often that you hear the word condoms worked into the lyrics of a heavy metal album, but here you go. They find a way to pull that off. Probably the one that's the oddest on here is a track called NASA, just NASA. And yes, they're referring to the space agency. And the song is lyrically basically hypercritical of the NASA space agency because of the Challenger space shuttle disaster that had happened in 1986, where Challenger blew up upon liftoff. Um, it's kind of weird material for a metal song. It seems a little weird even for a punk song, maybe. I don't know. I've never heard a band go off on NASA because of a space shuttle accident. I was a kid when Challenger exploded. I remember exactly where I was at. It was, I think it's January 28th. We had a snow day from school. My dad and I had sort of trudged out carefully to just a little mom and pop store down the road to get out of the house and pick up a couple of groceries or something. And it was one of those kind of stores that has like a little bit of everything in it, including they had a TV set up above the cash register. And when we walked in, everybody's eyes were glued to the TV, and my dad was kind of like, what y'all watching?" They just pointed at the screen and they were showing the replay, images of Challenger's explosion. Yeah, very unfortunate incident. I remember everybody being very shocked and very sad about it. I don't remember it being the cause of a national uproar about NASA being, as the band says, a bunch of idiots and morons who didn't know what the F they were doing. Maybe that was going on, and yeah, I was just too young to be aware of that mentality. It's not something they would have covered in sixth grade social studies, really. Um, but yeah, it strikes me as just a weird subject matter for a song. It's also not really one of the stronger songs on the album, in my opinion. It kind of sells into like a very kind of mid-paced, thumping kind of riff. It's not terrible, but doesn't have the same energy as the other songs. It just seems like you know, really, bands of this ilk, you've got all kinds of different social, political, economical topics to rant about. You're right in the heart of the Reagan era and all that, and you're gonna pick on NASA because of a really unfortunate accident. Hmm, I don't know. Anyway, getting off of that tangent and moving on. So yeah, they have two albums out on Combat. Both are quite good. There was one little lineup change I should mention with A Life of Crime. They did have one guitarist exit the band, and the replacement was Louis Svitek. Sorry for the pronunciation. It's Svitek. And Louis is notable because he would go on to play in MOD, the kind of, goof band with, he was on the Surfing MOD release, for example. But in the late 90s, he also played with Ministry. So he certainly went on to, some pretty noteworthy things that people will be familiar with. All right. After 87, the band is kind of quiet for a while. And it's, let's see, actually, I don't even know if they have a demo out during that period. Not that I'm aware of. There certainly could have been. But yeah, they really wouldn't surface again until we get to 1993, when their third album would pop up. Not on Combat, as you can imagine, by 93. But yeah, you have Mind Over Splatter. It's released, I believe it's spring of 93 on this one. And I'll have to double check the label for you. I've got it tagged over here on another screen. Red Light Records, which I think also released an album by the 80s band Coven in 93, if memory serves right, and it may not. Anyway, some warning signs right away. The cover art for this one definitely looks, a bit homemade, spliced together. You have a kid who is floating above his skateboard, which is floating above, well, not much of anything. And he's facing down some kind of giant Terminator or killing thing who seems to be riding on top of some other giant winged beastie thing. But it's done in like more of a black and white art style. So the cover images don't mesh particularly well. It's a really strange kind of image. It's kind of neat in a way, but just the way it's done makes you feel there wasn't necessarily enough of an art budget, or they didn't get to finish it, perhaps. Not really sure. The second warning sign that comes up with Mind Over Splatter is the fact that the original lineup is not here. In fact, only one original member is still here. Guitarist Kevin Michael has a completely new cast of characters around him this time out. Yeah, even Barry Stern was gone by this point. Barry had moved on and joined the other kind of Chicago legendary doom band Trouble, and appeared with them on their very highly regarded self-titled album from 1990, and was also on the follow-up Manic Frustration. So yeah, Barry went on to do some pretty good things. Incidentally, he passed away, I think, in 2005 at age of only 45 due to complications following hip replacement surgery. So the fact that you needed a hip replacement surgery at only 45 and then died from it, yeah, things definitely went wrong there, which is a shame. He seemed to be a very charismatic singer, and yeah, I liked his drumming style on those first two albums too. Now, Barry was involved with the production of Mind Over Splatter. The new drummer is somebody who has a footnote in obscure Chicago heavy metal history. So replacing Barry behind the kit was Sean Shipper, and he had played with the sort of underground band Emmy Strut, who released a really rare EP back in 1985. It's one of those that is, kind of, collector vinyl. It's not like one of those $1,000 grill things, but it usually runs several $100s, and you don't see it all that often. So yeah, they had another local fella in behind the kit. Another interesting little footnote with Mind Over Splatter is that the writing credits for track number 3, New World Order, are actually David Ellefson and Mustaine. Turns out that guys in Zoetrope were friendly enough with Megadeth that Megadeth had written some songs in the early 90s they didn't do anything with. Well, this one song they gave Zoetrope permission to go ahead and play. The Megadeth would eventually do their own take on New World Order, but it wouldn't come out until the band's album 13 in 2011. So it'd be almost 20 years before Megadeth decided to do something with the song themselves. So hey, kind of cool that yeah, they wrote it and essentially gave it to Zoetrope for the album. So they have a new vocalist on board as well. The new vocalist does a pretty good impression of, Barry's energetic kind of vocal barking style. And well, I've talked about the album a lot. Let's go ahead and check out a clip. This will be from the closing track called Tomorrow It's You. And this is again from the 1993 album Mind Over Splatter. All right, so there's a bit of the closing track, Tomorrow It's You. It's a pretty good track, and this is kind of a weird album to critique. First off, individual performances are pretty solid here. It's not like they had brought in a bunch of hacks to fill out the lineup or anything. And like I said, vocals are still at least in kind of roughly the same style. Lead work is still quite good on the album. It's still operating overall, mostly in the same vein. I'll come back to that comment in a second. But at the same time, it seems to be missing a little bit of a spark. The first problem is the production. It's a bit kind of maybe muffled sounding. It's not awful whatsoever, but it doesn't have that kind of, louder live energy sound that you have back on things like Amnesty. So the production, there's a knock against it. And the other thing is just that, the songs overall, while they're not bad, they don't really inspire you to play the album over and over. For example, the clip from Tomorrow You sounds pretty good. That's about as good as this album gets. That was not an average representation of the album. That's the ceiling for how good this album's going to sound. Everything else, all the songs that come before it are going to be anywhere from one step to several steps lower than that. So the ingredients are all there and they're putting them together okay, but somehow it just doesn't translate into an album that has much repeatability, at least in my opinion. Not awful. I wouldn't give it like an F grade or anything like that. I'd probably grade it as something like maybe a C minus, where it's like, you're doing okay, but there's definitely something off here. It doesn't get me excited about the album. Yeah, some of it may just be biased too. It's definitely the album I know the least about. The timing of the release certainly didn't help the band early, or help the band any. In 1993, this kind of, thrash was, of course, on its way out. It was dead by this point. You had, even thrash bands were putting out very non-thrash albums by this time. Anybody interested in extreme metal was interested in death metal. Those deep in the underground were interested in black metal, and the general population was interested in grunge. And there was just no audience for thrash at this point. They did have, kind of the unique hardcore-ish vibe going for them, but that didn't seem to necessarily click either. And there were a couple of songs on the album where they were trying to experiment a little bit. If you're listening to this and not watching the screen right now, I'm doing the little air quotes thing with my fingers to indicate that, yeah, they were, there's a couple of songs where they're trying some different things to maybe make themselves seem a bit more with the times. The egregious example of this is certainly the Splattered. It's half the title track. The title is Mind Over Splatter, but there's a song called Splatter, and well, let's just go to the tape. Look, I wish I was joking. I'd love to come on here right now and say, "Oh, ha ha ha, gotcha. That's something else." No, no, that's a song from this album. A few more seconds of it. channeling their inner Beastie Boys, I guess. Wow, that happened. That song, it's mercifully short. I don't think 2 minutes and change, but I have rarely heard a song that is so out of place on an album as that one. Thankfully, it is the only song where they try to rap on the album. Like I said, there's a couple others where they're toying with some ideas, but they don't try that idea a second time, which in a way just makes it stand out all the much worse. Again, 93, you get into some bands, old bands trying weird tricks to try to prove they're still relevant and with it. And let's face it, those just didn't work very well. So, yes, towards the end of this album, you get a bona fide rap song. Well, the album does end again with, some better material, like the clip I played from before, Tomorrow Is You. The song right before that is pretty good too, although I will have to double check the title for you because I do not remember it. So yeah, they do give you at least two chances to wash splattered out. You get Spilling of Blood. Yeah, that's the other one. Between Spilling of Blood and Tomorrow It's You, you almost can get that hip hop exercise out of your brain if by the time the album's done. Yeah, so again, well, it's certainly not a terrible album, and it has its fans. I've seen a couple of very positive reviews about it. Um, it does feel like, yeah, this was a band that, even though they had, some good people helping with this album and they gave it their best shot, their number was up and it was just time to call it a day. And this was indeed the last thing that Zoetrope put out. And so, yeah, this ends the tale of Chicago's original street metal crew, the mighty Zoetrope. So let's wrap this video up, and now let's talk metal in the comments down below. If anybody has, other information about the band, cool things that I don't know, didn't mention, by all means, please post them down below so other folks can learn more as well. The Zoetrope album's not particularly hard to find. Even older vinyl copies have not really been the most expensive or difficult things to track down. There's reissues with bonus tracks available, at least for the first one or two. I'm not sure this one's gotten reissued yet. But again, certainly worse things you could hear. If this pops up in your YouTube feed, you don't need to scramble to the keyboard to, skip to something else. It's got its moments. It's got decent performances. It just somehow doesn't quite have the right songs. But such is life. But hey, maybe you disagree with me. If so, leave a comment down below and maybe convince others why they do need to check out Mind Over Splatter. That's going to do it for this time. Thanks for watching. Until next time, everybody take care. And as always, keep banging your head. Just not to that splatter song. You can't bang your head to it because it's not really a metal song. But you can bang your head to the other ones instead.